The moment I understood my family had turned me into their personal bank was not when my sister stole my identity. It was not even when my parents expected me to support their lifestyle while I could barely manage my own expenses. No. The real turning point came the night they presented me with a $1,500 dinner bill for a celebration I had been intentionally left out of, and then mocked me when I questioned it. My name is Amanda Parker, and that truth hit me like a punch in the stomach that evening at Bel Ante, a fancy Italian restaurant with white tablecloths and wine priced higher per bottle than my weekly grocery spending. Standing there, looking at 15 family members relaxing around a table filled with empty plates and finished wine glasses, something inside me finally snapped free. But I am jumping ahead. To grasp how I ended up paying for an anniversary dinner I never attended, you need to understand how I became my family's walking ATM in the first place. It began quite innocently. I was 24, freshly graduated from college, when Mom called saying they were short on the mortgage payment. Dad had lost his job once again. Could I help out just this one time? Of course, I answered immediately. After all, that is what family is supposed to do. Support each other. Except that one time turned into every single month for 2 years. The mortgage payments then shifted to car bills. Car bills changed into utility payments. Utility payments turned into credit card debts they mysteriously racked up while I was covering everything else. When my sister Amy finished college, guess who stepped up to cover her rent since her new job was not quite paying enough yet? I was 28, working at a tech firm in the city center, earning a decent income for the first time ever. Not wealthy by any standard, but stable enough to rent my own place, manage my expenses, and maybe even save a little on the side. Or so I thought it would be. Instead, I found myself living from paycheck to paycheck, watching my bank balance diminish faster than I could replenish it, constantly questioning where all my money was disappearing. The truth was right under my nose. I was not only supporting myself, but also financing my entire family's lifestyle, one emergency after another. I kept convincing myself this was temporary. I kept believing they would repay me when things improved. I held on to the belief that helping family through tough times was what we did. Yet looking back now, the reality is painfully clear. I was the only one offering help. I was the only one making sacrifices. I was the only one unable to live my own life because I was too busy sustaining theirs. The anniversary dinner was meant to be different. For once, I was excited for a family event that wasn't about what I could pay for, but about celebrating something significant: my parents' 30 years of marriage. Mom had been organizing it meticulously. I had been talking endlessly for weeks about Belanti, that upscale Italian restaurant which had just opened in the heart of the city. 15 people were invited, including aunts, uncles, cousins, practically the entire extended family gathering. The reservation was set for 7 o'clock sharp. Mom had reminded me 3 different times that week. Don't you be late, Amanda. This is very important. I had it all noted in my calendar, set multiple alerts on my phone, and even left work early to have enough time to get ready. But fate had other intentions. At 6 o'clock, just as I was shutting down my computer, my boss appeared at my desk, wearing that look which meant my evening was about to fall apart. Amanda, I hate to say this, but we have a client emergency. The Peterson account is experiencing system failures, and they are threatening to cancel if we don't fix it tonight. My stomach twisted immediately. I have my parents' anniversary dinner in 1 hour. I know, only 5 minutes, maybe 10 at most. I promise we'll get you out soon. However, those 5 minutes turned into 30. Every time I tried to leave, a new crisis popped up. Another urgent email demanded my immediate attention. I watched the clock slowly move past 6:30, then 6:45, my hands trembling as I typed. When I finally managed to break away at 6:45, I bolted to my car, fumbling with the keys as panic tightened in my throat. The drive to Belanti felt like a slow nightmare. Every red light seemed endless. Every slow-moving driver barely moved. People seemed to intentionally place themselves right in front of me. I kept glancing at the clock on my dashboard, watching 7 o'clock appear and disappear, while I was stuck in traffic that felt almost spiteful. When I finally arrived at Belante's parking lot at 7:30, I was already practicing my apology. I knew Amanda would be disappointed, but I assumed everyone would understand. Unexpected work issues arise. Family understands and forgives. The hostess pointed me toward the back of the restaurant, and I quickly made my way through the dining room, my heels clicking on the tile as I carefully passed tables filled with other families celebrating special moments. Yet the sight before me was nothing like I had imagined. Instead of people eagerly waiting for me so the dinner could start, I saw 15 relatives relaxing around a table cluttered with empty dishes, wine glasses nearly drained, and crumpled napkins scattered like party confetti. It resembled the end of a banquet, not its beginning. "Hey everyone. Sorry I am late," I said, sliding into the one vacant chair left for me. "Work was hectic, but I am here now." That was when I caught the looks directed my way, and they were not what I had expected. My Aunt Gwendolyn was smiling as if in on a secret I did not know. My cousin Tyler was attempting to hide a grin behind his wineglass. Even my dad, usually the peacemaker, had a curious, almost smile at the corners of his lips. Amanda glanced at me. She looked at me with this disgustingly sweet smile and casually dropped the first bombshell as if she were commenting on the weather. "Oh, darling, we moved dinner earlier by 2 hours. Everyone was starving." I stared at her, my mind refusing to grasp the meaning instantly. "What?" "But the reservation was set for 7 o'clock. I double-checked this morning with you." With a voice dripping in that condescending tone I had heard countless times before, she replied, "We did not think you would actually come. You are always so caught up with work and everything else." Those words hit me like a punch in the gut. My mouth fell open as I absorbed what she had just said. They had shifted my parents' anniversary dinner, a dinner I had eagerly awaited for weeks, without notifying me because they assumed I would not show up. "Are you serious right now?" I barely managed to say. "I told you 3 times this week I would be here. I even left work early." At that moment, my sister Amy interrupted, pointing toward the leftover food with the enthusiasm of someone offering scraps to a stray animal. "Look, there is still plenty of food left. You can have the leftovers." I followed her finger to see what was left of their celebration. Half-eaten breadsticks that had turned cold, some conchiglie pasta, and serving bowls that appeared robbed by scavengers, along with the pitiful remains of a salad that clearly had seen better days. This was what they were offering me, the leftovers of the dinner they purposely left me out of was on my mind. My stomach churned, and not just because I was hungry. "This is unbelievable," I said, my voice growing louder despite trying to stay composed. "Why didn't anyone inform me about the change in time?" My dad cleared his throat, visibly uneasy for the first time since I arrived. "Amanda," he began, "we thought about your schedule." But my mom interrupted him by reaching into her bag and pulling out a folded sheet of paper. Her movements were dramatic, rehearsed, as if she had been waiting for this moment all evening. "Since you are here now," she said, offering me the paper with a smile that did not reach her eyes. I took the paper, unfolded it, and my gaze quickly scanned the details before I fully registered what I saw. It was the dinner bill. $1,500. I read that amount twice, then 3 times, convinced I was misunderstanding something. $1,500 for a dinner I did not attend at a celebration they intentionally excluded me from. "Mom," I said slowly, "this must be a joke." Her grin grew wider, almost menacing. "Oh, I never joke about money, darling. You have that wonderful job and no children or husband to spend money on. This should be easy for you." That was the moment the laughter erupted. Not polite or uneasy chuckles, but full, hearty laughter. My Uncle Gerald could barely catch his breath, nearly choking on his wine. My Aunt Gwendolyn wiped tears streaming from her eyes. Even the cousins I had grown up with, the ones I had played with at family gatherings for many years, joined in the laughter aimed at me. "This is exactly the right decision," my Aunt Gwendolyn said between chuckles. "Older children must support their parents. That is what family means." I felt as if I was caught in a bizarre nightmare. "Are you all serious right now?" My dad leaned back in his chair, his previous unease replaced by something that resembled satisfaction. "Come on, Amanda. You always help us out. It has become our family custom. You cover the big expenses. We enjoy ourselves. Do not break the tradition." More laughter burst around the table. My Uncle Gerald lifted his wineglass in a playful toast to our family ATM. Then my sister, the very person I had been paying rent for since she finished college, shouted with drunken excitement, "Yes, our ATM that requires no PIN code." The jabs continued. They said I was their personal bank, how fortunate they were to have someone paying for everything, and how I should appreciate being invited to the events I was expected to finance. Each remark felt like a sharp blow, and I sat there taking it all in, watching the people I had loved and supported for years show exactly how they truly regarded me. But something unusual occurred as I listened to their laughter. Instead of growing angrier, a wave of relief washed over me. It was as if finally, after so long, all these years I thought I was hearing the truth. Of course, they were intoxicated, and their usual filters were gone. But drunk people tend to reveal what they really think, right? This must have been their genuine opinion of me, probably what they had whispered about behind my back for countless years. I glanced down at the check I held in my hands. $1,500. For a meal I never even touched at a celebration they had moved without informing me. Surrounded by people who viewed me merely as a source to finance their own enjoyment. In that moment, I did something I had never dared to do before in my entire existence. I tore the receipt in half, then again and again, continuously, until it was reduced to nothing but tiny scraps fluttering through my fingers like confetti. "Happy anniversary to everyone," I announced as I stood up, letting the pieces fall on the table like delicate snowflakes. The merriment ceased instantly, as though someone had flipped an invisible switch. I grabbed my bag and began walking toward the exit, my heels clicking a steady beat that sounded almost like applause behind me. I could hear my mother calling my name, her tone sharp with alarm, but I did not look back. I walked past other diners who were now focused on her table, ignored the hostess whose face was filled with embarrassment, and stepped away from the life where my value was counted in money and my affection was taken for granted. By the time I reached my car, my hands trembled. Not with anger, though there was plenty, but with something else, something that felt almost like liberation. The drive home awaited me. The night blurred into a swirl of streetlights and racing thoughts. I kept going over the evening in my head, but instead of dwelling on the pain and humiliation, I found myself reflecting on all the other occasions when I had been expected to cover the costs for everyone else's enjoyment. The pattern appeared so obvious now that I could not believe I had overlooked it for such a long time. When I arrived home, my phone was already exploding with notifications. 15 missed calls, 23 text messages, and more kept pouring in. "Amy, you need to come back immediately and settle that bill." "Mom, Amanda, this is humiliating. Return now." "Dad, your mother is in tears. Fix this." Dozens of messages arrived throughout the night, all variations on the same demand. I was wrong. I was selfish. I was ruining the family over money. The irony was not lost on me. They accused me of turning everything into a money issue while simultaneously demanding I pay their expenses. I switched my phone to silent and tried to sleep. Yet rest was impossible. My mind raced. piecing together the dots I had been blind to for years. For 2 years, I had been paying my parents' mortgage, utilities, and car payments. I had been covering Amy's rent for 6 months, even though she had a job and earned money that apparently went to clothes and nights out, while I took care of her essential housing costs. I had supported all of them while they freely spent their own money on whatever they wished. Tonight they made it perfectly clear what they truly thought of me for doing so. I was neither their daughter nor their sister. To them, I was nothing more than an ATM, a personal bank that never required a password. The following morning felt like waking up in an entirely different reality. My phone remained silent for a moment, then abruptly filled with notifications, 47 missed calls, and 62 text messages. Every message carried the same underlying demand. Come back and pay. You brought shame upon us. This is your duty. I erased all the messages without reading most of them. While preparing coffee, my phone vibrated again, this time with a Venmo alert. There was a payment request from Mom for $1,500. The note attached read, "Anniversary dinner gift." I burst out laughing. A gift. They expected me to cover a dinner I never attended and call it a present for them. Their nerve was actually remarkable. I launched the Venmo app and pressed decline. It felt incredible. Within 15 minutes, my phone rang. Mom's name appeared on the screen, and for a fleeting second, I thought about letting it go to voicemail. Yet something compelled me to answer. Possibly curiosity about what new manipulation tactic she would unleash. "What on earth is wrong with you?" she yelled before I could even greet her. "Have you completely lost your mind? You embarrassed your father and me last night. We couldn't face our family after your stunt." I poured my coffee and took a seat at the kitchen table, amazed at how composed I remained. What stunt? Refusing to pay for a dinner I was not invited to attend. You were invited. We only moved the time earlier because people were hungry and all. During the family meeting, it was decided that you would take care of the bill. What family meeting? I questioned. When exactly was I invited to that? It does not matter, she snapped back. Everyone knows you have the means to cover it. You earn more than any of us. This is what family is about, Amanda. I took a sip of my coffee, struck by how this conversation was so unlike the ones we had shared before. For the first time, I was not scrambling to apologize or make excuses or find a way to fix a problem they had caused. No, Mom. This is what you have been forcing me to do, but I am finished being your ATM. I will not pay for everything while you all spend your own money carelessly anymore. I am no longer your financial sponsor. There was a silence for a few moments. Then my mom's voice softened, adopting that manipulative tone I had heard countless times before, the one she uses when she wants to make me seem like a child throwing a tantrum. Honey, you do not mean that. Look, I know your feelings got hurt last night. Everyone was drinking and kidding around. You know how family gatherings go. We did not mean anything by it. You are being way too sensitive about this. Too sensitive. There it was, the typical response from someone caught mistreating you. They turn it around and blame you for feeling upset. Too sensitive, I repeated quietly. You rescheduled my parents' anniversary dinner. Without informing me, they expected me to cover the cost of everyone's meal and then mocked me for being a source of money, accusing me of overreacting. Amanda, stop overdramatizing. Just send the money, and we can pretend none of this happened. I ended the call abruptly. Within a few minutes, she tried calling back. I refused the call and blocked her number. Next, I blocked my dad's number, then Amy's, yet they persisted relentlessly. Unknown callers began contacting me every 10 minutes. Whenever I recognized one of their voices, I would hang up immediately and block that number too. That morning alone, I must have blocked about 8 different numbers. Then my Aunt Gwendolyn reached out using her phone. I almost did not answer, but my curiosity got the best of me. Amanda, This is Aunt Gwendolyn. Look, I was there last night. Maybe things got a bit out of control, but that does not justify cutting off your entire family. I responded, Aunt Gwendolyn, let me ask you something. How much money have you given my parents over the past year? How much of your own funds have you used to pay their bills, mortgage, or car installments? There was silence. Exactly what I expected. However, somehow, it is seen as normal for me to do it, right? Because I earn well and do not have children. Amanda, you are successful. It is natural you would want to assist your family. I replied, helping is very different from being exploited. Tell my parents and Amy to stop reaching out to me. I am done with everything. I hung up and blocked her number as well. After that, the calls finally ceased. The house remained quiet. The atmosphere grew calm in a way it hadn't been for many years. No one was demanding money. No one insisted I cover bills. No one made me feel guilty for having a stable job. I spent the weekend tidying up my apartment, something I hadn't managed to do for months because I was constantly caught up in some family financial emergency. I went grocery shopping without the anxiety of worrying if there would be enough funds left over for someone else's rent. I even treated myself to a nice bottle of wine, something I hadn't allowed in years since every extra penny had gone toward my family's expenses. By Sunday evening, I noticed something extraordinary. I felt lighter than I had in ages, as if I had been carrying a huge burden and finally let it go. I reflected on all the money I had given them throughout the years. The house payments during the 6 months when Dad was unemployed, the car repairs, Amy's college fees, even though she had student loans, her apartment deposit and the first month's rent, and the vacation they took to Florida last year, a trip I funded but was not invited to join. Thousands upon thousands of dollars. Money I could have saved or spent on my own life. I gave it all because I believed that's what family was supposed to do for one another. But when was the last time they helped me? When I was sick with the flu last year, did anyone bring me soup or medicine? When I was working 70-hour weeks on that huge project, did anyone check if I needed help? The answer was no. Because in their eyes, I existed only to give and never to receive. I was thriving, so they assumed I did not need assistance. I had no children, so sympathy was unwarranted. I earned well, which meant I was obligated to support them. 3 months slipped by in tranquil quiet. 3 months of holding on to my money. 3 months without playing the role of anyone's personal ATM. My savings grew larger than ever before. For the first time since college, I was genuinely setting money aside. I purchased new furniture for my apartment and took a weekend getaway to the mountains just because I felt like it. After many years, I was finally living for myself instead of covering everyone else's expenses. Those 3 peaceful months came to an abrupt end with a phone call that altered everything. On a Tuesday morning as I prepared for work, my phone rang from an unknown number. Normally, I would have ignored it and let it go to voicemail, but something compelled me to answer. Miss Amanda Parker, this is Jennifer from Chase Bank's Collections Department. I am calling regarding your overdue credit card account, ending in 4792. You are currently 2 months behind on payments. My mouth froze. I am sorry. What? I do not have a Chase credit card. Our records show you applied for a Chase Freedom Card 2 months ago. The account shows a balance of $20,847, and you have missed your last 2 minimum payments. My heart pounded violently. That could not be true. I never applied for any Chase credit card. This must be a mistake. Let me confirm some details with you. The representative mentioned that the application displayed an email address used for setting up the account. She recited an email address, and my heart sank instantly. I recognized it immediately. It was Amy's email address. That is not my email, I said quietly, my voice barely audible. That email belongs to my sister. She replied, I understand. However, the application shows that email address along with your social security number and home address. I will send you the application documents by email right now so you can examine them. As soon as we ended the call, I checked my inbox. 5 minutes later, the documents arrived, and what I saw chilled me to the bone. My name, my social security number, and my home address were all there, but Amy's email was listed as the contact. At the bottom of the application was a signature resembling mine, though something seemed off. The phone number provided was not mine either. I began reviewing the account statements in growing terror. The card had been used at various restaurants, fashion stores, and electronics shops. Someone had purchased an $800 iPhone, spent $500 at an upscale steakhouse, and made numerous purchases at designer boutiques, totaling $20,000 within 2 months. The application's date sent a shiver through me. The card had been opened exactly 1 month after the anniversary dinner at Belanti, 1 month after I had refused to pay their bill and severed all financial ties with them. My hands trembled as the unsettling truth settled in. When they lost access to my funds, they chose to obtain money anyway by opening a credit card under my name using my private information. My very own sister had committed identity theft by applying for a credit card in my name. I contacted Chase immediately. This is Amanda Parker. I have just reviewed the documents you sent me. This is surely fraud. Someone has used my identity to open this account. They replied, I understand. You will need to file a fraud report and provide proof. Meanwhile, the account is still in your name and the balance remains your responsibility until our investigation is complete. I asked how long the process usually takes. They said, typically between 30 and 60 days. We also recommend filing a police report for identity theft. After hanging up with Chase, I sat in my apartment staring at those statements. $20,000 spent on clothing, dinners, and electronics, while I was working tirelessly to build my life. They had done this simply as retaliation for me cutting off their money source. I grabbed my car keys. It was time to confront my parents. I drove to their house for the first time in 3 months, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. Mom answered the door, and her face shifted through at least 5 different emotions upon seeing me. Amanda, what are you doing here? She asked. We need to talk right now. I pushed past her into the living room where Dad was watching television. He looked up, clearly surprised. Look who decided to bless us with her presence, he said with a sarcastic tone. I pulled out the bank documents and threw them on the coffee table. Amy opened a credit card in my name. She forged my signature and stole my identity. $20,000. Mom picked up the papers and examined them. Her face showed no surprise, and I realized then, you knew about this, I said, studying her reaction. You were aware and allowed it to happen. Amanda, calm down. We can explain. Explain? She committed fraud. Dad muted the TV and faced me. We needed the money. It was the simplest way to get it without causing trouble. Without causing trouble. You stole from me. Mom sat down and folded her hands as if she wanted to have a calm conversation. Honey, you earn a good salary. You can handle this. We used the card to pay some household bills, went out to eat a few times, and Amy bought some things she truly needed. Things she truly needed. I looked at both of them in disbelief. There is $800 here for an iPhone. Her old phone was broken, Mom said dismissively. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Are you out of your mind? This is identity theft. This is fraud. I could have all of you arrested. Oh, please, Mom waved her hand. Don't be so dramatic. It is just money. You will pay it off in a few months and everything will be fine. I will pay it off. I did not spend this money. Dad leaned forward. Look, we wanted to teach you a lesson about refusing to support your family. Now you have to pay, whether you want to or not. Whether you accept it or not, Maybe next time you will think twice before walking away from us." Then it dawned on me. They had committed fraud as retaliation because I refused to pay a restaurant bill. They had stolen my identity simply because I finally stood up for myself. "This conversation is finished," I declared, grabbing the papers from the table. "And so is our relationship." "Don't be absurd," my mother shouted after me as I made my way to the door. "We are family. Family never steals from each other," I shouted back firmly. I drove directly to my friend William's law office. We had known each other since high school, and I trusted him more than anyone else. "Goodness, Amanda," he said after reading everything carefully. "This is major fraud. Identity theft, forged documents, unauthorized credit use. You could definitely file criminal charges." "What are my options?" you ask. "Well, you could report this to the police immediately, and they would likely arrest all three of them. Alternatively, you might file a civil lawsuit to seek damages." He paused, leaning back in his chair. "Or we could first send them a letter and see if they are willing to repay what they owe before involving the authorities. What would you prefer?" "Please prepare an official demand letter. Let's give them 60 days to repay the entire sum. If they refuse, then I will decide whether to press criminal charges or sue in civil court." William worked on that letter for 2 days. It was a legal document 3 pages long, basically stating, "Repay the $20,000 or face criminal prosecution." He sent it via certified mail to my parents' home address. The phone calls began right away after my parents received William's letter. First, my mother called shouting that I was being spiteful and selfish. Then, my father phoned claiming I was ruining the family for the sake of money. Soon after, Amy called sobbing, saying she had only taken a small amount and I was making a huge fuss over nothing. I let all the calls go to voicemail. When I finally checked the messages, they were all variations of the same accusation. I was wrong. I was cruel. I was destroying the family over a trivial sum of money. $20,000 was a trivial amount to them. For the next 2 weeks, they tried different phone numbers to reach me. Various relatives called too, each attempting to persuade me to drop the lawsuit. All of them used the same reasoning. I was successful, so I should simply move on. Family matters should not involve lawyers. I was being too severe. None of them even offered to help repay the amount they claimed was insignificant. Then, on the 58th day of the 60-day deadline, I received a notification on my phone. A Venmo transfer for $20,000 from my father. I stared at the screen in utter disbelief. They had actually done it. They had returned the money. I immediately contacted Chase Bank and paid off the entire credit card debt. Afterward, I requested to close the account for good. I never discovered where my parents obtained the money. My closest. I suppose they either took out a loan or borrowed money from someone else. It really did not concern me. It was no longer my issue. After that, everything went completely quiet. No phone calls, no text messages, no unexpected visits. For the very first time in my adult years, my family left me alone. Months went by. I managed to save more money than I ever had before. I took a solo trip to Europe. I bought a new car. I even began putting money into retirement funds. For the first time, the money was truly mine. Just before Thanksgiving, I received an email from Amy. The subject read, "Family dinner invitation." It said, "Hey Amanda, we're having Thanksgiving at Mom and Dad's place this year. It will be just like when we were kids. Hope you can come. Love, Amy." I read it twice and then laughed. They wanted things to return to how they used to be when I was their dependable source of cash. But those times were gone. I deleted the message without replying. About a week before Christmas, a package arrived at my door. Inside there was a pair of sneakers I had been wanting for months, along with an invitation to Christmas dinner. I examined the sneakers. They were exactly the right size and color. someone had clearly noticed what I liked. For a brief moment, I felt something close to hope. Maybe they cared about me for more than just money. I kept the sneakers, but did not attend Christmas dinner. Instead, I purchased small presents for each of them and sent them by delivery. Nothing extravagant, just small tokens to mark the holiday. Yet I stayed home and spent Christmas alone. It was calm and serene. Now, nearly a year later, my life has taken a completely new direction. No one reaches out asking for money. No one tries to guilt me into covering bills that are not my responsibility. No one treats me like a cash machine. My savings account holds more funds than ever before. I am planning another trip, possibly to Japan this time. I am even considering purchasing a house. Through mutual friends, I heard that Amy has turned things around. She took on an additional job and began supporting mom and dad with their expenses. Apparently, when they could no longer depend on me, they learned how to handle their own finances. Who would have predicted that? I am not ready to make amends with them yet. Maybe that day will never come. The trust has been broken in a way that may be impossible to mend. They didn't merely ask me for money, they effectively stole from me. They not only hurt my emotions, but committed offenses against me. However, I do not harbor hatred toward them either. I simply do not want them involved in my life at this moment. Perhaps, someday, that will change. Perhaps one day they will realize their mistakes and genuinely apologize. Or maybe they will not, and that is perfectly fine as well. Because I have learned a vital lesson. Family relationships are not meant to be based on exchanges. Love should never have a cost attached to it. Sometimes the most caring act you can do is to keep distance. One of the best things you can do for yourself is to distance yourself from those who view you solely as a source of money on legs. Thank you for listening, and if this story resonated with you, please share it with others. Remember to leave a comment and subscribe for more stories focused on establishing limits and regaining your sense of self-worth. Often, our most powerful moments arise when we cease supporting people who do not appreciate us.